Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the Muslims Connected Mental Health Awareness presentation. This is a two-part series for Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's titled Nurturing Roots, Strengthening Family Mental Health. I'm Mariam Sani, and I'm joined by my colleague and co-presenter, Sumaya Khan. So before we can become healthy parents, we first have to be healthy spouses. But before we can be healthy spouses, we first have to be healthy individuals. And the goal of this presentation is to hopefully demonstrate how all of these interplay. So before becoming parents, we were two individuals who became spouses. And in order to understand your parenting style, we have to reflect on the following. Number one, our individual personality factors. They are our childhood experiences and other factors that influence our development. It has an impact on our personality, and this determines how we deal with things, how we respond to things, how we engage with others, our interpersonal relationships. And so it's important to understand this about ourselves in order to understand how we are as parents. Secondly, our partner relationship. So our relationship with our partner, it is important to understand how we connect with each other, how we do things together, because this can also influence our parenting. And then lastly, our co-parenting dynamics. I think that sometimes we often think of co-parenting or co-parenting plans, we think of it being done with divorced couples, but actually it's a very good exercise to actually have a co-parenting plan or co-parenting strategies between you and your spouse as well.
Okay, I don't know if you can hear me, but it's not allowing me to turn my video on because the host won't allow it. So I don't know if you have to give me permission, Mariam.
I'll just double check now.
Okay. Okay, assalamu alaikum. Mark that you can't see me. That's fine. I think everybody can hear me, so that's good. As Mariam said, an individual's personality factors refers to the way in which individuals form and maintain relationships, as well as their parenting style. These factors are significantly shaped by the individual's early childhood experiences with their caregivers. And there are four types of attachment styles. We have the secure, anxious, dismissive, and avoidant. An individual with a secure attachment style tend to be more responsive spouses and parents who can provide strong emotional support and understanding. Emotional intelligence significantly impacts an individual's relationships. As the person, sorry, I'm getting distracted by the pop-ups. Emotional intelligence significantly impacts an individual's relationships as the person is much more self-aware and they're able to regulate their emotions, and they are able to effectively manage stress and emotions. This results in effective communication, resolving conflicts healthily, and emotional support. If one has low emotional intelligence, there will often be miscommunication, unresolved conflicts, and increased stress, and a lack of empathy. An individual's personality traits refers to one's unique characteristics, patterns, and tendencies that define their behavior, thoughts, and feelings. These are the three personality types. Agreeableness, conscientiousness, and neuroticism. Agreeableness refers to someone who is more cooperative, nurturing, and empathic. Conscientiousness refers to being organized, responsible, having self-discipline, and being more consistent. Neuroticism refers to a personality that is more prone to anxiety, and they can be emotionally unstable and vulnerable, which can often lead to them being very demanding in order to feel that they have things under control. An individual's childhood experiences shape the way in which they will also parent. Parents play an extremely important part as role models in their children's lives, as the example set by an individual's parents will also be significant in determining how one is with their spouse within their spousal relationships as well. Therefore, the example you set for your children is extremely important for their personality development and social skills. Stress management is crucial for maintaining a healthy relationship with your spouse and children. Unmanaged stress can negatively impact your loved ones. It can lead to increased conflict, emotional distancing, and disconnection between family members, decreased intimacy and communication, as well as increased anxiety and depression, as those around you will feel overwhelmed and unsupported. Okay, I think I should be able to turn my camera on now, so I'm just gonna give it a try, and there I am. Okay, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Additional factors that may influence one's development is our own family dynamics. Growing up in a single parent home, divorce, an absent parent, or death all impact an individual differently. Divorced households may sometimes lead to being raised in blended families, which also results in a very different outlook and experience of what family looks like and how families engage. An individual's cultural and societal background, also influence their way of thinking and being in the world. Coming from the same religious or racial background may result in a similar experience, but that doesn't guarantee that two people have been raised with the same experiences or rituals, etc. This will impact how you would want to raise your own children and how you would want to impart religious and cultural knowledge to them. And next is the socioeconomic backgrounds, which also results in an individual experiencing and understanding the world in different ways and having different views on spending, saving, and how to raise your children in developing their own understanding of finances and economic differences. An individual's mental health, as well as their thoughts around mental health and wellness, is extremely important, as they may require additional support from their spouse. They may find it challenging to be emotionally available, or they may have a very negative and unempathic view towards mental health issues. It is imperative that your partner is fully aware of any mental health issues that you may have been diagnosed with or experienced in the past, so that they can make a fully informed decision on whether they're able to provide the support needed. Mental health conditions often have a strong genetic component as well. Therefore, it's important for your partner to be aware, as it could be something that will be passed on to future generations. Just as with physical conditions such as diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer, etc. Being as prepared as possible for any challenges always makes it much easier should any issue arise. And lastly, any significant life experiences will affect your emotional well-being, as well as how you may engage with your spouse and or your children. Experiencing significant trauma or loss can have a major impact on how safe you feel in the world and how open you will be towards others, as well as how able you are to give and receive affection from your spouse or your children.
So now we're going to talk about couple relationship factors and individual, and as Sumaya has explained, individual personalities can influence the parenting style. We're going to go into the 5 couple relationship factors, and then we'll go into detail into each one. So number 1, we have effective communication. Of course, open communication promotes collaborative parenting. Number 2, conflict resolution. Frequent conflicts can lead to inconsistent parenting between spouses. Number 3, intimacy and connection. Emotionally connected couples, they model healthy relationships. Number 4, parenting agreements, as we mentioned, shared parenting values and goals foster consistency between spouses. And then number 5, power dynamics. Imbalanced power can lead to authoritarian parenting. So, effective communication strategies for spouses. Number 1, active listening. I think we live in a technological world where we are so busy and we are often so distracted that we are listening, but we are also not listening. Or rather, we are hearing, but we are not listening. And so when we want to communicate with our spouse, it is important that we practice active listening. And this means that firstly, there are no distractions. This means no cell phones. Make sure that children are occupied. We can't have anything distracting us. I can't be busy cooking while we're having the conversation. I can't be busy cleaning out the garage while we're having the conversation. It is important that when we do have to have conversations or communicate about something, then we have active listening where we are paying attention to each other. Right? It might sound silly, but we use our good ear. So make sure we turn ourselves to, with the ear that can hear the best, and we make sure we are listening well to our partner. We also practice active listening by maintaining eye contact. So, looking at our partner, listening to what they're saying, acknowledging what they are saying, summarizing what they are saying, and asking if you're unsure. Sometimes someone gives a message, but the message is received in a totally different way. And it is important, if you are unsure, to ask and to clarify and make sure that you understand what is being said or what is being expected from you in that moment. A simple strategy that can be used when we are communicating about something important, when we are having a discussion about something, is to take turns when speaking by using a talking stick. It doesn't have to be a stick per se. It can be anything that can be used as a symbol that when the partner has the talking stick, they are the ones who are talking and the other partner listens. Sometimes when someone is talking to us, something pops up in our head and we want to perhaps clarify something, or we want to ask a question. Jot it down and note it down. So, make it a habit of having something near to you, like a pen and paper, where you can jot down a question that pops into your head or something that you want to just clarify, so that when your partner has done talking, you can then ask, and again, ask if you're unsure and you can clarify. Number 2, show empathy. It is something that we sometimes expect from each other, but sometimes because, again, of all the responsibilities that we have, we are working, we are seeing to the children, we are tired, we're exhausted, sometimes it's difficult to show empathy. But it's something that we have to try to pay attention to and be conscious of, to respond to each other in a non-defensive way, to emotionally validate each other, meaning we acknowledge what the other partner is feeling. So if my partner is expressing their feelings to me, I acknowledge. Even in that moment, if I don't understand or I'm not sure what's happening, but if they are expressing a feeling, then I acknowledge what they are feeling and I acknowledge what is being said. So we try to demonstrate understanding again by asking and clarifying if I don't understand, and also trying to avoid assumptions, right? Then number 3, self-regulation strategies. These are very basic strategies. We do not able to go into detail, but we will try and share perhaps more strategies later on. But firstly, the most important thing is to be able to identify our own emotions and to improve our awareness around them. Understand what I'm feeling, when I'm feeling it, and perhaps why I'm feeling it. And if I'm able to understand that, it becomes easier to manage those emotions, because of course our emotions can influence how we respond to a situation, how we respond to our spouse, and how we perhaps talk to our spouse. So it's important to recognize what I'm feeling in a moment, especially if I'm becoming overwhelmed by that feeling or I'm becoming emotionally charged in that moment, to actually manage my emotions so that I can respond in a manner that I will actually be comfortable with and that I won't regret. And then just some quick techniques is a relaxation strategy, like deep breathing techniques. When I'm feeling overwhelmed by an emotion, to take some deep breaths just to calm myself down, to regulate myself, and just to kind of recuperate and then come back to the conversation. We can also practice mindfulness strategies. But again, we will share some of these strategies later on. But the important point is to identify our emotions, become aware of them, and to learn how to regulate them, so that when we are in communication with our partner, it doesn't become a hindrance to the communication. And then again, some effective communication tips. It is important that we schedule regular check-ins. Now, again, we are working, we are seeing to the children, there's 100 things happening on a day-to-day basis. it is important for us as partners to check in with each other. Not on a date night where we've scheduled some time to bond, but rather have a time, whether it's you find a time in the day where you do a check-in, or even if you sometime during the week where you have a regular weekly check-in, but check in with each other regarding things like work, the children, any plans that you have that you are working towards, any goals that you're working towards, tasks that need to be completed. Maybe there are things around the house that need to be completed, chores that need to be done, or chores that need to be shared, or between yourselves. So make sure there are regular check-ins in order to check in on all of those things, and even just to check in on each other. How are you doing? How was your day? How's work going? That thing that you told me about last week, the problem that was happening at work, was it resolved? How's things happening now? So check in with each other. Then number 2, we try to use non-judgmental language. We want to take care of the relationship. The spousal relationship is an important one, and so we want to look after it. And so we try to use words that will promote love and promote nurturing the relationship. Number 3, as I mentioned before, we try to avoid assumption. Sometimes when we assume things, it can become a conflict later on, it can become an argument later on. So we try our best to avoid assumptions. Again, if we're not sure, number 4, we clarify. We clarify if we're not sure, if we don't understand what was said or what was being said. We also clarify expectations. Often we've heard it many times where partners say, but my partner should know this about me, or should know what I want, or should know that this has to be done. Sometimes partners don't know, and we have to communicate this to them. We have to express it to them. We have to clarify our expectations in various avenues in the family. We need to clarify our expectations. Also, we want to practice empathy with each other. Again, validating our partner's emotions and showing empathy and understanding and compassion to our partner. And then we want to be open to feedback. I think it's a human nature thing to not really like to get feedback, especially from our partner. But I think in this, in the spousal relationship, this is the person that probably knows you really, really well, and we have to trust that when the feedback is given, and it has to be shared according to the tips that we've given, that when it is shared, it comes from a place of trust, and it's aimed at strengthening the relationship, and it comes from a place of love as well. So let's be open to feedback to see how we can not only, become healthier versions of ourselves, but also become healthier partners to each other, and then ultimately become healthier parents to our children, thereby strengthening the family system.
Okay, and one of the most important ways of effective communication is healthy conflict resolution between spouses, and that involves not only effective communication but also mutual respect and a willingness to resolve disputes in a constructive manner. When emotions are high, it is important to de-escalate your emotions. Take a break, change the subject with the intention of coming back to the discussion later, always, never just, forget about it. Try your best to keep calm. Practice deep breathing to calm your heart rate, which will help reduce the overwhelming feelings and refocus your thoughts. Always avoid shifting the blame. Take responsibility for your own actions and don't make excuses. Apologizing to your partner if necessary can help calm the situation and lead to quicker conflict resolution. Focus on the issue, not the other person. Don't focus on attacking your partner and pointing out their errors. Rather focus on how to resolve the issue. Sometimes it can be very easy to, when your anger overtakes, and that's why I like keeping yourself calm and practicing all of these techniques can be really helpful. By identifying and focusing on the issue, you can more easily collaborate to find solutions. Listen actively, as Mariam mentioned earlier, to what each other is saying. Pay attention to your partner's perspective and make an effort to understand their feelings. That's why clarification is so important. Clarifying your own feelings without attacking your partner, and also taking time to understand each other's expectations and needs. Be willing to compromise and find a middle ground. Look for a mutually beneficial solution. Always respect each other's boundaries so that you are both comfortable with whatever decision is finally made. And be willing to forgive and let go of grudges. Do not be resentful, bringing up old issues later on. Once an issue is resolved, let go of it. And lastly, be open to ask for help if needed. It can be a trusted family member or a friend who you both trust to be fair, a religious leader or a professional mediator if necessary. Just remember, effective and healthy conflict resolution builds trust, understanding, and intimacy. It fosters compassion and understanding, and it decreases the tension and anxiety within the relationship and the family dynamic. If as spouses you have this conflict, it is going to impact on your children and how safe they feel within their family environment as well. Okay, next.
Now, intimacy and connection. So, of course, the spousal relationship is the foundation of the family system, and it is important to look after and maintain the spousal relationship. Because again, as we said, before we were parents, we were and we are spouses, and it's important that we do what we need to do to also fulfill that relationship. Also, we model to our children through our own actions. We are teaching them how to be a partner. Everything they learn about how to interact with other people, they learn from us. So whatever we do, it is modeling to them, and they learn from what they see between us and our spouses. So also when the connection is strong, it is easier to get through difficulties. It is easier to resolve the conflicts. It is easier to get through the disagreements if the connection is strong. So what can we do to build the intimacy and connection within a spousal relationship? Number one, we nurture the emotional connection. Again, communication. Communication is so, so important. And I think many a times this is one of the things that we tend to neglect, especially when we get busy and especially when the children are there. We're so focused on what the children need and what we need to do and the chores and all of that we sometimes forget to talk to each other. So communication, care towards each other, and compromise. Sometimes you're going to have to compromise. Sometimes your partner is going to have to compromise, but we have to be open to compromise. And then building emotional intimacy, being a safe space for each other to share. Your spouse is the one person who will know you really, really well. It is the one person who you will be vulnerable with, who you will share your deepest thoughts and feelings with. And so we have to be a safe space for each other to share those kind of things. I need to know that when I confide in my partner, that whatever I share will remain between us, and it's not going to be shared with someone else. It's not going to be thrown back in an argument. It is going to be kept safe so that I always feel I can come back, and whenever I need that space, it is there and it's available for me. We share our vulnerabilities, we share intimate conversations also about our needs and expectations towards each other. So not only when it comes to parenting and working on the family system, but also our needs and expectations from each other, because we also have a spousal relationship that we need to maintain. So it's important to be able to feel safe to communicate to my partner what my needs are and what my expectations are. And make sure that when you communicate your needs and expectations, that we actually acknowledge the needs and expectations. We either say, yes, I can meet those needs, I can meet those expectations, or no, I'm unable to meet this expectation or this need, and we have a conversation about it. Number two, show affection and emotional support towards each other. Again, we are modeling to our children. What we show each other is what they will learn about what a relationship must look like. So if we are showing affection to each other, they will show affection to their partners one day. If we are not showing affection to each other, they will not show affection to their partners one day. So we have to show affection and emotional support towards each other. Don't be afraid to hug your partner, to show affection. If you're in front of the kids, it's PG kisses, but do romantic gestures, have surprises, share gifts with each other. These are the kind of things that build that emotional connection, but also that build the love. Show empathy and express support for each other. So if the one is perhaps, has a goal that they're working towards or a task that they've set for themselves, support each other in that. Again, model to your children how partners support one another. If a partner is, studying or they're working towards a promotion for a job, support each other so your children can also learn how to support each other, not only for future partners, but also within the family system. And then emotional validation. Again, acknowledge feelings. Sometimes we don't understand what our partner is feeling or why they may be feeling that way. But it's important to first acknowledge, first validate what they're feeling, and then we can have a conversation about it, right? So always acknowledge and validate what my partner is feeling. This will help build that emotional support towards each other. And then prioritize quality time together to maintain the emotional connection in the relationship. Often, spouses are so busy, taking care of the children and taking care of the household that they forget to take care of each other. And they don't prioritize spending quality time together. And it goes weeks or months or sometimes very long time that they actually had time alone together. Yes, it's important to spend time with your children and you need to make time for family time. But it is as important to spend time with your spouse and spend quality time together where the children are not around, where you can actually build that bond and strengthen that connection. So schedule regular date nights. Make sure you have time for yourselves and do things that you both enjoy, have halal fun together, focus on shared interests and hobbies also to foster bonding. Maybe there's a hobby that one partner enjoys, they might introduce the partner to it, do things together, whether it's hobbies, whether it's sports, whether anything, any kind of activity, try and do those things together, even if it's one thing, because that is also something that can help foster the bond between spouses.
Okay. Building on that, something that's really important is having a parenting agreement or plan. This is something that is often only discussed when couples divorce. However, it's just as important to have a parenting plan in place in all types of parenting situations. This is because it provides a clear, mutually understood framework for co-parenting, ensuring the well-being and best interests of your children. If you guys are able to discuss this and have a plan in place, it just makes everything feel more stable. And often one of the biggest challenges that parents face is disagreeing how to manage challenges that arise within their children. So having an agreement in place helps navigate those challenges so much easier when they arise, and you're like somewhat prepared for those challenges as well. It gives parents the opportunity to discuss parenting philosophies and values and ensures that you're on common ground, or at least to find a common ground. It should highlight all the roles and responsibilities to create an easier path to parenting for you, for both of you and for your children. This should include everything from daily routines and schedules to chores, discipline, boundary setting, education, health, wellness, financial responsibilities, etc. For the parent, it clarifies roles and responsibilities for each parent, which reduce parenting conflicts. It encourages collaboration and communication and helps to manage those expectations. It also reduces stress and anxiety around tasks and can increase parenting confidence as you each will assign tasks that focus on your strengths and your abilities. It also supports a healthy co parenting relationship. For the child, having an agreement or plan in place provides a sense of stability and predictability as they are experiencing consistent parenting and reduced conflict and stress between their parents. It'll increase their sense of security, which often leads to healthy emotional regulation, improved academic performance, and an enhanced parent child relationship. And then, from a practical perspective, it establishes routines and schedules, defines decision making processes, outlines responsibilities for everyone involved. It provides guidelines for communication and ensures continuity. In special circumstances, it further promotes healthy child development and fosters resilient relationships. It encourages cooperation and teamwork, especially in families where parents are separated or divorced, and enhances healthy type of family cohesion and reduces the risk of parental alienation. It also facilitates smooth transitions when any unexpected changes occur. It's so important to collaborate with each other as parents, using online templates, resources, seek professional mediation if necessary, and be certain to review and revise the plan regularly so that, as changes come up, or if your schedules change and your needs change, you have these constant conversations so that you're on the same track all the time. Okay.
All right, so now we'll talk about power dynamics. And these power dynamics can influence the spousal relationship and, of course, influence the parenting. There are about 10 different power imbalances that we're going to talk about, and I'll try to, just for the sake of time, because we'd like to keep some time for questions, I'm going to try to just go through them very briefly. So number one, and before I go into this, again, we are partners in a relationship. We are partners, and by default, being partners means that we have to do things together, making decisions together, having discussions together. We both are involved in any kind of decision making with regards to the family. So the first one is financial power imbalance. When we have a case of one partner controlling all the finances and financial decisions, or a partner becomes economically dependent on a partner, it can create also feelings of powerlessness. And if one person is only controlling the finances and the decisions around finances, it can create a power imbalance in the relationship. It can lead to feelings of resentment, and it can break down the spousal relationship, which can then have an effect on the relationship with the children. Number two, emotional manipulation. This is when we use emotions like guilt or anger to control a partner, or we minimize or dismiss a partner's feelings. Now, earlier we spoke about the effective communication strategies, and one of the things that we highlighted was acknowledging partner's feelings, so emotional validation, making sure that we acknowledge, what the partner is feeling, even if we don't understand it. If we dismiss or we minimize the partner's feelings, or we're trying to control a partner using guilt or anger, this leads to emotional manipulation. Again, it can lead to a breakdown in the spousal relationship. Number three, decision-making dominance, where we have one partner making decisions without consulting. So, and sometimes, it happens without us realizing. And so again, it's around also being conscious and being aware of these things, just being aware of the kind of power dynamics that can come into play, and being aware so that if it does happen, we can talk about it and we can, just have a plan for it, but trying to be aware so that it doesn't happen. Of course, if one partner is making the decision and disregarding the other partner's opinion and input, again, it can lead to certain feelings. It can lead to resentment. It can lead to a partner feeling, unimportant in the relationship. And again, it can lead to the breakdown of the relationship. Then social status and influence. Sometimes there's a difference in social status between partners. Sometimes there's a difference in education, a difference in the type of career that partners may have. But again, it's important to communicate around these factors and how to navigate it. As long as there's a plan in place, it won't become a problem. So it's not something that can be avoided, but if this is the case, let's have a conversation around how we navigate it and what our needs and expectations are from each other, and how we'll meet those needs and expectations. And then gender role stereotypes. Of course, we come from a community where there are traditional gender roles around certain things, around cooking, around cleaning, around outside work, for example. But we are also living in a time where often, probably the majority of the time, both partners are working, which now means that we have to assign roles to each other. We have to assign those tasks to each other. We have to come together and have a discussion about how are we going to navigate the roles, and how we're going to navigate the tasks that need to be done for the family to function in a cohesive way. But this means we again have to have a conversation about it, about how are we going to navigate this, right? Expecting a submissive partner or engaging in domineering behavior, again, it can lead to a power imbalance in the spousal relationship, which can lead to a breakdown in the relationship. Then control and micromanaging, trying to control a partner's actions or choices, monitoring a partner or restricting them. Again, the word partner by default, it means that we are working together. Everything we do together. We have a conversation about things, we have a discussion about things, and together we come to a decision around how we are going to navigate something, how we are going to manage something, but we communicate with each other if there's a need and an expectation, right? So it's important to not try and control or to micromanage our partners, but rather to work together and to find ways to communicate so that we can have a cohesive family system. Then number 7, intimidation and coercion, using threats or aggression, using physical, emotional, or verbal abuse in a relationship in order to get the spouse to do what it is that you want to do. So this is semi-control, but a little bit more than control, is now using aggression or using threats or using abuse to actually get the partner to do what they want to do. On this note, I just want to say that if you or anyone that you know of, if you're aware of anyone who is suffering from any kind of abuse, try to get them the support and the help that they need. There are many resources available. You don't have to suffer alone. If you do know someone, please do try and assist and get people help. We often see that people remain in these kind of relationships, even though it's really affecting them and obviously breaking down the relationship, breaking down the family system. And sometimes it's a struggle to get the help. Sometimes it's misunderstood to be acceptable in the relationship. But of course, using threats and aggression, again, it creates a power imbalance in the relationship, and also it is un-Islamic. So number 8, passive aggressive behavior, indirectly expressing negative emotions through actions or inactions. This is actually quite common, but again, we've highlighted effective communication strategies. This means that we communicate when we are happy with something, but we also communicate when we are unhappy about something. And again, when we communicate, we are unhappy about something, giving that feedback to our partner, we trust from each other that it's come from a place of love, it comes from a place of trust, and it is aimed at strengthening the relationship and not breaking down the relationship. And so when we communicate those kind of things with each other, we also try to be mindful about the kind of words that we use. We want to use words that are loving words, that are, that will help nurture and strengthen the relationship. But it's about expressing. We have to communicate. When we do not communicate, we then indirectly express how we feel through actions or inactions, right? And this is obviously an unhealthy way of dealing with conflict. Number 9, lack of accountability. So avoiding responsibility for actions or blaming our partner, refusing to acknowledge or apologize for hurtful behavior. Sumaya explained earlier some effective strategies for conflict resolution, where if necessary, if you were at fault or there's something you need to take responsibility for, we take responsibility for it, we apologize, we repair the relationship, and we try to figure out how to move on from there. Again, if there was hurtful behavior, if we may have said hurtful things, we try to acknowledge that and we apologize for that behavior. And then we work together in figuring out how do we move on from here. And then lastly, power struggles in conflict resolution, using conflict to assert dominance or control, and avoiding conflict resolution or compromising. So of course, in a spousal relationship, we have to compromise at some point. Sometimes I will compromise, sometimes my partner will compromise, but we have to be open to compromising. It's a constant negotiation in the relationship. You are constantly negotiating. And sometimes the partner is let's say getting the advantage, sometimes it's me, right? But using conflict to assert dominance or control, also unhealthy in a relationship, creates a power imbalance and can lead to the breakdown of the relationship. If something has to be resolved, it is important to resolve it immediately. When we do not resolve conflicts, when we do not resolve disagreements, it leads to feelings of resentment and it leads to a breakdown in the relationship. And sometimes conflicts are left so long and the relationship is so damaged that it's difficult to come back from that. And this is, of course, not what we want to see. We're trying to maintain the relationship. We're trying to save the relationship and make sure that the spousal relationship is healthy so that it can be a healthy foundation for the family system. But of course, within the spousal relationship as well, we want to make sure that the individuals are also has a healthy way of dealing with things within the relationship.
And with that in mind, that the interplay between the coupled relationships and their individual personalities significantly influences the relationship dynamics, satisfaction, and longevity of the relationship. The co-parenting dynamics significantly impact on child development, relationship satisfaction, and the overall family well-being. We have the collaborative interactions, which are characterized by mutual respect and trust, open communication, active listening, shared parenting philosophy and goals, cooperative problem solving, as well as flexibility and adaptability, versus competitive interaction, which are characterized by power struggles, control issues, communication breakdowns, differing parenting styles and values, conflict and arguments, and often manipulation of children to complete an alienation. The benefits of collaborative co-parenting is enhanced child development and well-being, reduced conflict and stress, increased parental satisfaction, improved relationship dynamics, and better role modeling for your children. On the other hand, the consequence of competitive co-parenting is that the child experiences emotional distress and anxiety. There's increased conflict and stress, decreased parental satisfaction, damaged relationship dynamics, and negative role modeling for your children. Therefore, that's also again ties into the co-parenting agreement and or plan, because that really helps in terms of having a more collaborative way of co-parenting. As discussed earlier, the importance of emotional intelligence in order to build a harmonious communication between the couple and healthy emotional support between partners is extremely vital in providing a balanced and supportive environment for your children. Thirdly, the couple being able to find common ground, make compromises regarding parenting roles is of utmost importance. Although every individual has their own personality traits, as we've been discussing, that will speak to how they engage in their relationships and with their children. It is vital that as parents, they try to be on the same page as much as possible, as this will provide the sense of safety and stability for your children. It will also allow you as a couple to resolve challenges so much easier. Which brings us again to conflict resolution. And again, every individual has been influenced by the modeling they experienced in terms of resolving conflicts. Therefore, it is of utmost importance that you are able to manage disagreements in a calm and healthy way. This will provide a family environment that has consistency and allows you and your child to feel safe. Okay, next slide. Okay, the impact on the parenting style. Just in terms of time, I'm not going to go into it in as much detail as I had planned to. All of these will be discussed in part 2, where we focus more on parenting style and positive parenting. So I will just quickly go through this. As we discussed, the individual's personality has a significant impact on the parenting style. These are the 4 main parenting styles. Authoritarian, which is often linked to rigid or conflict avoidant couples. The parents often come from a background that is quite traditional or conservative, and they themselves have experienced quite strict and rigid and inflexible parenting. So they tend to be emotionally distant and will avoid conflict. They can be quite perfectionistic and critical, and they're often people who have experienced trauma or neglect in childhood, or very strict and punitive upbringing with a lack of emotional support and validation. The authoritative parenting is typically seen in emotionally intelligent and communicative couples. They tend to be warm, empathic, and nurturing people who are flexible, open-minded, and self-aware. They are supportive and encouraging to their spouse and their children, and they would usually have grown up with similar-minded parents, allowing them to develop these traits. Permissive parents are often more lenient and indulgent and accommodating. Although they are emotionally expressive and empathetic, they avoid conflict and confrontation and tend to prioritize the child's happiness over responsibility. This results in it being difficult for them to set boundaries and discipline. And like the previous parenting styles, these type of personalities usually have experienced similar parenting styles in their own upbringing. We often also find this with parents who are single parent households due to them having a lack of limited support systems. And these are also parents who have experienced a lack of boundaries or discipline in their own upbringing with a lack of responsibility and accountability. These type of parents tend to have a lack of self-awareness and find it difficult to manage emotions, stress, or conflict. They also tend to have a fear of rejection or abandonment and will often be people pleasers or those that seek validation. And they also find it difficult to assert authority or set limits. Please note that none of these parenting styles are absolute or guaranteed. It also depends on the individual and the experiences that they have had, as they become adults themselves, or support systems they have had around them while growing up. And these traits may change should the parents see their own upbringing as problematic and they seek help to ensure that they overcome their challenges and unhealthy traits, which would lead to them being mentally healthy and more self-aware partners and parents. Like I said, these parenting styles will be discussed in more detail in part 2 to provide a more understanding around how they impact your children. Okay, next slide.
So just quickly, I think we're just going to keep some time for some questions. So challenges and solutions. When there are power struggles, we try to establish clear roles and responsibilities, as we mentioned earlier. If there are different parenting styles, try to find a common ground between partners so that we can be consistent when it comes to the children. Any kind of different parenting can create instability for the child, and this obviously is not geared towards building a healthy family system. Then, if there are emotional triggers, practice self-awareness so that you can recognize what you are feeling, when you are feeling it, why you are feeling it, and how to manage and regulate what you are feeling. If there is lack of communication between partners, schedule regular check-ins so that you can always be on the same page with each other, whether it be around yourselves, whether it be around the children, whether it be around the household, but schedule regular check-ins so that we're always in communication and so that we are always aware of what is happening within the household. And then if there is co-parenting with someone who is perhaps a narcissistic or someone who is not cooperative, try and set boundaries with partners so that to limit the kind of effects on the children. At the end of the day, we're trying to build a healthy family system, which means that we have to look at ourselves firstly as individuals, then we look at ourselves as the couple, as the parents, as a couple firstly, as the spouses, and then we look at ourselves as the parents. And all of this is geared towards building a healthy family system in which we can nurture our children in a healthy environment so that they can develop optimally into healthy individuals themselves. Sumaya, you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry. So with regard to conflict resolution, these are some helpful models to look at in assisting you to learn how to resolve conflict in a helpful and healthy manner. I have a lot of detailed notes, but I'm not going to go through any of them right now, just because we do want to leave time for questions. So I will share those with you. But just in terms of each of these, the Gottman method collaborative and proactive solutions, and the interest-based mediation. These were all created or developed by psychologists and researchers in their field. The last being developed by a law professor and lecturer on negotiation and mediation, and it's often used with parents in helping them deal with conflict between spouses and parenting, all that. So I will share that information with you guys further or after this. And these are just some helpful resources. You know, it can be anything from going in person for couples therapy or counseling, co-parenting workshops or classes. There's so much available. Please just, you know, do your research. There's loads of online resources as well, Instagram pages, blogging, or blog, sorry. And these are just some of the books that I've shared here or we've shared here. There's many others. I will also be sharing much more resources focused on parenting in our next workshop. Okay, thank you, Shukran.
And now let's check if there's any questions. I'm just going to scroll up quickly and see if there are any questions. Is it possible to share these wonderful slides? They invite to view. I think we will try and make the slides available, and we'll also try and share some of the resources that we've mentioned. And also, like we said, even just some resources on emotional regulation strategies, which, like we said, is helpful for the individual, you know, to regulate yourself, to be able to be a healthy spouse, and then to be a healthy parent. Are there any other questions besides the slides? I know the slides are always helpful because it means that people can go back to just refresh what was shared. It's a lot of information. We recognize it's a lot of information. It's only an hour. We try to cram as much as we can into the hour for the benefit of, you know, for the benefit of the audience. But sometimes it can feel like an overload of information. So definitely the slides will be helpful with that. Very helpful content. Thank you. You are most welcome. I think that we also chose this topic because you know, we focus sometimes on the individual, on the health, the mental health of the individual. But so often we forget that within a family system, one affects the other. So if a partner is going through something, it will affect the other partner. If the parents are going through something, it's going to affect the children. And so within a family system, there's a lot that can actually affect each other. And the other reason is that we model to our children. So not only how to have good relationships with us, but how to have good relationships with each other, with their siblings, and then also how to have good relationships with people outside of the family system.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the kind words. We're so glad that it was well received. Yeah. If there are no further questions, we are right on 9 o'clock. I don't know if Swain, do you want to add anything else?
No. I think you summed it up perfectly, specifically with around, you know, how the individual affects the couple, affects parenting, affects the family dynamic. And that's exactly why we wanted to focus on this. It's so much information. And honestly, we had to actually conduce a lot of what we wanted to share. We had to take out so much because of the time constraints. We could talk about this forever. We could go into detail about everything. So we have tried our best to share what we felt was the most important thing, inshallah. And we hope that we appreciate all the thank yous and all the positive feedback. And we hope that you will find the slides and other information that we share with you guys just as helpful. And we look forward to whoever will be joining us. Will be joining us in part 2 as well. Someone just said, just my experience at the 5 love languages helped a lot with my family. Alhamdulillah, yes. I find that, you know, what's great about the 5 love languages is that it looks at you can check what your individual love language is, you check what your love language is as a couple, and then it also checks what your love language is as a family. And it is so helpful in understanding what each other's love languages are, because that in itself just helps so much with connection and being able to communicate in the way that your partner can receive it, and that, you know, and they can receive yours as well as your children, you know, because we're all individuals at the end of the day. And we all need to be understood in our individual ways. Part 2, this is just answering the next question that popped up, is next Sunday. So the 27th, also at 8 o'clock, inshallah. So we hope to see all of you there, and it will hopefully be just as informative and as well received as this. Yeah, already working on it. Yes.
So I think also what the question was, what can we expect? So in the second webinar, we'll focus more on parenting strategies, on positive parenting strategies. So today's webinar was around just the spousal relationship and how to strengthen that. And now we need to focus on the parenting relationship, the parents' relationship with the children, and include positive parenting as well. So that will be more focused on parenting itself. And I just want to end, like Sumaya said, there are so many resources available. There's a host of resources available. I mean, much more than we had before. And there's access to a lot of information online also. And resources can come in different ways, whether you decide to get help from a professional just to assist you with, you know, getting started on how to work together, how to navigate the family system, or you get resources online, you know, or you read up on things. There's a lot available. So yeah, so just try and empower yourself, you know, educate yourself, and this also helps with navigating those relationships. But that's it for tonight. Inshallah, we shall see everyone next week, where we continue with part 2. Wishing everyone a good evening, inshallah, and a productive week ahead, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.